California is paying for cheap rent in the most expensive way possible. That sounds backward, because it is. Becerra's housing tax credits are meant to help build more affordable homes. But here's the catch. That does not automatically mean lower rent for everybody. In a state like California, that difference matters a lot. The real question is not whether the credits sound good on paper. The real question is whether they actually make life cheaper for renters who are getting crushed by housing costs right now. And the short answer is this: they can help, but they are not a magic fix. These credits are part of a broader housing plan aimed at increasing supply. That matters because California has a huge housing shortage, and when housing stays scarce, rent stays high. So in theory, if the state helps more projects get built, renters should eventually feel some relief. But there is a big difference between eventually and right now. That is where the debate starts. Here is how the tax credits actually work under the hood. Developers apply for these credits through a state program, and if they qualify, they get a big tax break over time. That tax break is not a cash check handed to them. It is a reduction in the taxes they owe. In exchange, they agree to rent out a certain share of the units at below market rates, and they must keep those rents lower for a set number of years. So the credit is not going to the renter's bank account. It is going to the developer's bottom line so they can afford to build and still survive. That is important because a lot of affordable projects are barely profitable on paper. Without this extra cash flow from tax credits, some of them would never get off the drawing board. The benefit to renters is indirect: more units with rent caps. But it is still real. If a project is built solely because of the credit and creates 50 or 100 affordable units, that means 50 or 100 households are not forced into the open market. But, and this is the key, those units are not handed out to every renter in the city. They are usually reserved for people who meet income limits, and they are often filled through wait lists. That is why some renters feel left out, even when the program is technically working. And in California, timing is everything. Renters are already under serious pressure, and many households are spending more than half their income just to keep a roof over their heads. So a policy can be smart and still feel too slow to matter. One thing many people miss is that tax credits do not work in a vacuum. They live inside the larger political fight over land use. In California, local governments still have a lot of power to slow down or block projects, even when state money is on the table. That means a tax credit-backed building can sit in hearings, environmental reviews, and lawsuits for years before anything is built. So the real bottleneck is not always the money. It is the permission to build. That is why housing advocates keep pushing for stronger state rules that protect projects from constant delays. If those rules go through, the credits can do more. If they do not, the credits can feel like unlocked money that still cannot reach the ground. The strongest argument for Becerra's approach is that it helps build more housing. And that matters because California does not just need lower rents. It needs more homes, period. The state has a long-running housing shortage, and every new unit helps, especially if it is affordable to people who are actually struggling. His housing agenda also leans on measures such as zoning reform, faster approvals, and public funding tools. That is important because tax credits work better when local rules stop slowing everything down. If a city blocks almost every project, even the best-funded program will not move the needle. If, on the other hand, a city clears the path for more construction, then credits can turbocharge the pipeline. So the credits are not a standalone fix. They are one piece of a larger machine that includes changes to the law, planning decisions, and public money. Now, where would this matter most? The biggest impact would probably be in the counties with the highest rent pressure and the deepest housing shortages. That includes Los Angeles County, Orange County, San Diego County, Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, San Francisco County, Alameda County, and Contra Costa County. Those are the places where even small changes in housing supply can matter. Think about a 120-unit building in East LA or a 60-unit project in Oakland, where half the units are reserved for households earning below 50% of the area median income. That project may not change rent for the whole neighborhood, but it can completely change the life of a single mom, a student, or a service worker who finds one of those units. And those projects are exactly the kind that tax credits are designed to help. Without the credit, the developer might decide it is too risky. With the credit, they can move forward and actually deliver homes. It could also affect parts of Riverside, San Bernardino, and the Central Valley, where rents have climbed fast and families are feeling the squeeze. These areas are not always part of the national conversation, but they should be. In cities like San Bernardino, Merced, or Stockton, a new affordable building can be the difference between staying in a community and being forced to move out. So the story is not just about coastal cities, it is about statewide pressure. Now let's talk about the skeptical side. Critics say tax credit programs are expensive and complicated. They often depend on layered financing, investors, banks, and long timelines. That can make projects harder to build than people expect. That is why some people ask a fair question. Are these programs helping renters, or are they mostly helping developers get projects approved and funded? That criticism is not crazy. There are examples of projects that take years to complete, and in the meantime, rent keeps rising. That can feel like the system is moving slowly while real people get pushed out. There is also the issue of who actually gets helped. These credits are usually aimed at low-income renters, but the lowest-income families often still need more support. In some cases, even a low-income unit can still be too expensive for someone who is barely getting by. So even when the program works, it may not go far enough for the people who need the most help. That is the core weakness of the policy. Still, it would be wrong to call it useless. If the credits help push more projects from plan to reality, that is a real win. More housing can ease some pressure over time, especially in places where the shortage is severe. And when more homes are built, the market becomes a little less tight, which can slow the rate at which rents shoot up. But renters do not live in the long term. They live on the monthly bill. They care about whether the number on the lease is lower, higher, or the same. So, if we are being honest, Becerra's housing tax credits are best seen as a slow-burning solution. They can help build more affordable homes, and that can lower pressure over time. But they are not going to suddenly slash rent for the average California tenant. That is why the answer is both yes and no. Yes, they can help lower costs for some renters in some places. No, they do not automatically lower costs for everyone. And that is the part voters need to remember. The policy is not a miracle, it is a tool. And in a state with a housing shortage this serious, tools matter, but only if they actually get used the right way. If tax credits are tied to real protections, faster approvals, and strong oversight, they can do good work. If they are just thrown into the system without clear rules, they can appear as expensive discounts that mostly benefit developers. If you are a renter in California, what does this actually mean for you? It means that a program like this is more likely to help you if you qualify for an affordable unit and if one gets built in your area. It also means that broad rent relief still depends on bigger changes, more housing, smarter rules, and, in some cases, direct rent assistance or vouchers. So the credits are not your only hope. They are one part of the picture. If this program gets expanded, could we see more affordable units in your city? Yes, possibly, but it will take time and it will not fix every problem at once. If the next governor decides to double down on tax credits, the real test will be whether those credits actually lead to more homes that low-income and middle-income renters can actually use. Subscribe to Housing IQ for more California housing breakdowns.